Jonty, always a pleasure to talk to you and in New Delhi. How are you coping with the air of the city? First question. Are you fine?
I'm actually great, thank you. And I think it's so noticeable, especially we live in Goa, next to the ocean. There's always a breeze. There's not much industry in the south, so it's very noticeable coming into Delhi. And I do wonder, especially if we're talking sport and encouraging kids, to get out and play, how they get outdoors in Delhi all the time. I'm not so sure how that's possible, but I am very well, thank you.
And BCCI has also moved out the under 23 knockouts from Delhi to Mumbai. Do you think sports now need the sports ecosystem now needs to relook at how to stage games in national capital?
Well, it is interesting because as a former cricket player, someone who's worked in the coaching sort of space in India, I get quite a few requests, and people know that I'm staying in Goa. Quite a few requests from academies who had planned to come into Delhi to play against other academies, and they're looking to say that they really don't want to bring their kids here for 2 weeks. They'd rather come to Goa. Is it possible? We don't have the facilities, to host these sort of things. But it's a massive concern. We're very much an outdoor lifestyle-oriented family, and we would struggle here in Goa. So, it's a big concern. I'm not sure. I'm not criticizing, but as a dad and as a sports person, I would struggle to live right here.
The India government has a plan to bring up a 102-acre sports city right in the heart of Delhi. Do you think, that'll be a backup facility for Ahmedabad, or we can look to host some real events there?
Well, I've always been amazed by sport in India. I mean, cricket obviously has been my major focus, but it's great to see, men and women, boys and girls participating in other sports. Because as a fielding coach, my speciality, I've always said to people, go play badminton, play hockey, just kick a ball around, just be more of a lateral mover, have more peripheral vision. And that's what other sports bring. And the focus was so much on cricket that, the sports cities that are coming up, the opportunities that young boys and girls are hopefully going to be having going forward is exciting for one. But as a South African sports person, a fan, I'm a bit concerned because, we know that India has this abundance of talent, but they don't always have the opportunity to express those talents. And the more of these sports cities that are produced around India, government has a role to play, business has a role to play, because there is such potential in this country, and it's exciting that these things are happening.
Jonty, let's glide into cricket at this point and, bring in your specialty area, which is fielding. When you came onto the scene, there wasn't anyone like you. But today, when you look at the fitness of the Indian and the South African side, would you say, does anyone in the team remind you of what you were in your heydays?
Well, my heydays, it was, everyone kept saying, well, you're like the number one fielder in the world, but I probably was the only fielder in the world. So it's easy to be number one when nobody else is even giving fielding a thought. We as a team, as a South African side, we realized and appreciated the fact in the early 90s that we lacked international experience. So the two areas that we could compete and be the best in the world was, one, the fittest team, and two, the best fielding side. So it wasn't just about me being a fielder. I was fortunate because of all the other sports that I'd played. It made me a good fielder, and I loved the fielding. So I think from a perspective where there are great athletes in every team that you see now, whether it's franchise level, international level, but I'm not sure people have the love for fielding that I did. Someone like a Jadeja, when he's in even 5-day cricket, everyone thinks, well, it's about batting and bowling, but fielding can change a game in a test match. So a drop catch, giving somebody an opportunity to bat on, bat longer, or breaking a partnership when the surface is really good to bat on and the bowlers are struggling to break a partnership. A brilliant piece of fielding can change the game, change momentum. So I think from a point of view where most of the international teams you see now, they have got good athletes. And they're not just good athletes because they want to be faster and stronger. It's about having the capacity to recover quickly, because there's so much cricket in the year. Cricket has become business. It's not just about playing for your country. There's franchise opportunities around the world, from South Africa to India to Caribbean to Sri Lanka, everywhere in the UK. So your whole year can be mapped out playing cricket. So recovery is such an important part. And I think that's what you're seeing with the athletes these days. Cricket players, they have become athletes, but understood it's not just being athletic in the field itself. but it's about having the capacity and the ability to recover quickly.
Let me bring you back to my question. Does any of the fielders in modern day cricket remind you of what you were in your heydays?
Sure, I think someone like a Glenn Phillips for New Zealand, I'd have to sort of look far. I was always such a big fan of Suresh Raina because, in India, I always appreciate someone who throws themselves around. Jadeja is superb in the field, but he's so fast. I mean, he's nothing like me in the field just because he's so quick to the ball. He doesn't have to slide or dive. He's got great hands, fantastic accuracy hitting the stump. So he's this complete all-round cricketer. But I think, Glenn Phillips, he's pretty acrobatic. And I suppose that was what set me apart in my young days playing cricket for South Africa, was the ability to throw myself around, jump back up, to my feet and throw the stumps down, hopefully. But he is very similar. He's faster than me, that's for sure. And he's...
We'll have to tell that to
No,
Jadoo.
he does. He certainly is faster than me. But the game has evolved. How defending the boundary in T20 cricket, I never left backward point unless it was because Pat Simcox was bowling, so mid-wicket was my area then. But I specialized in one position. So these young players today are on the boundary, they're in the ring, so they've become complete fielders. And I think just his agility, his speed across the ground, and his willingness to throw himself around is pretty much what I did in my youth.
Jonty, let's talk a little bit about the ongoing series. Lots of talk about the pitches, particularly the pitch that was produced in Calcutta. What is your opinion, really?
Well, South African cricketers, I mean, in my generation in the 90s, we used to struggle coming to India just because of the surface. We knew the ball was going to turn. We had all grown up playing on fast, bouncy wickets. Against the majority of our opposition, we're always fast bowlers. So there weren't many spin bowlers that would trouble us. And first-class cricket was only 3 days, so you would need to have a green surface to get a result in 3 days. So coming to India, we would struggle against spin. So I think what we've seen as well, a lot of South African players involved in the IPL, they don't always play in the playing 11, but they're part of the greater squad. So if you're a spin bowler, if you're a batter, getting accustomed to Indian conditions is something that the IPL has benefited countries like South Africa. I think the same with England and Australia, because the first couple of IPLs didn't have those Australian and English players. Their cricket boards didn't allow them to play because it ate into the international season. Whereas the South Africans would keep coming. So I think we're starting to see the benefit of that. And we are playing spin better than in my generation. There's no fear with the batting. The spin bowlers are getting great opportunity and great learnings in India. But I also think that, and I don't have a television at home, so we don't watch. We're an outdoor family. I did say that earlier. So I follow it on my phone, and not usually streaming, just seeing the scorecards and seeing the sort of the live scoreboards. And it is interesting because India, with the amount of cricket that's played here, and the amount of cricket that the national team plays, one of the interesting points was that they don't play enough domestic cricket. So in South Africa, we don't have that much cricket. So you play every game that you can because you don't have that full a calendar year. But from an Indian perspective, it's about managing your time, ensuring that you are available when required. So there's very valid points, because to be bowled out for under 90 in your second innings on day 3 of a test match as a host country on a spinning wicket, having had previous bad experience against New Zealand, hosting them. I think it's an indication. So it's not a one-off thing. So there must be some concern about the Indian batting in home conditions, because we know their spin bowlers do the job. And, but for me, I'm somebody that could only sweep or reverse sweep spin. So I'm not here to criticize and judge. But the South Africans would be happy with whatever surface is prepared, because I think we've got a decent balance and that's a thing for India. I mean, we used to in South Africa prepare green bouncing wickets because their batters would struggle. They didn't really have anybody other than Javagal Srinath and maybe Ganguly was the second seamer. Whereas now the Indian bowling attack, or the pace bowling attack that they have, if you've got a good surface and day 1 in a test match, there's usually a bit of seam movement. And if the Indian bowlers get the opportunity to bowl on those sort of wickets, then they can knock teams over. So having this home ground advantage is amazing. But because India's strength can be spin or it can be seamer friendly, it must be quite difficult for them to understand or to sort of decide what is the tactic that we're going to use. Because South Africa have good seam bowlers as well. So which I think it's going to be a great contest, the second and important test.
Jonty, staying on the topic of home advantage, India preparing pitches that give them, obviously, because they're at home, the advantage against a certain opposition. Do you think that with the test matches getting over under 3 days, it's shortchanging an entire ecosystem of fans who are actually buying tickets to get to the stadium and give test cricket the status it needs?
Well, I think the interesting thing, because there's kind of two ways to look at it. Because if you have, and I think what's been amazing with Test cricket in the last 5-7 years is that there's so many more results achieved. And you look at the way Bazball, everyone talks about this in the UK. The game goes forward quickly. So
it backfired today, by the way.
Well, that's the thing. So I mean, but results are, because I'm a cricket player, coach. I'm not a massive fan. I don't sit and watch. I will follow because I have a family, I've got business, and I don't sit and watch 5 days of Test cricket. And if there are results that are accumulating in 3 and 4 days, I'm all for it, because it's a case of, if the game drags on for 5 days and there's no result, then are you bringing people into the game to watch it? Is it? And I'm not expecting T20, 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 T20. I would like to see. I mean, people play Test cricket and they want to play Test cricket because it is a true test of your cricketing ability, your mental ability, and everything that goes into the game. So yes, I want to see good contests. If it only lasts 3 days or 4 days, that's for people to decide. Is it something that we want to be involved in? I like the fact that results happen in Test cricket more than 5 days have gone on. There's been some absorbing sessions, but no end result 60 to 70% of the times. I like to see results on Test cricket, and I think people coming into the game, they also appreciate that.
Do you think Shubman Gill not being there because of the neck injury he's had is going to impact India's performance in the series going forward?
Well, when your captain is in and out of the team, sure, it's going to impact it. But I think India has such an abundance of talent. And in fact, sometimes your strength can be a perceived weakness, because who to bring in? There's so many players on the fringe. Who to bring in to replace him? It's always such a difficult choice. Every time India, I would hate to be an Indian selector, because every time you pick 11, there's 11 players that could quite as easily have played in that starting 11. So it was a very difficult decision. So yes, having your captain out of the game, it is a change. But India has so much experience in their lineup, whoever they choose, that there's enough senior players to kind of lead from the front. And that's what you want. You don't want a captain that is the be-all and the end-all of decision-making. In Gambhir, they've got a great squad or setup management-wise off the field. So there's a lot of experience in that group. And sure, you're going to miss your captain. He's a young guy. He's still learning. So every game that he misses out is just another opportunity that he's missed to learn. But India has, real talent and real experience in their squad. So yes, they will miss him as a player and as a captain. But South Africa are not going to think, well, it's going to be a weaker team that we're facing in the next test.
Jonty, let me ask you this question. When you look at the ecosystem of coaches, test coaches around the world today, and you look at Gautam Gambhir, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate him?
Well, I suppose you rate people at the end of their tenure when they've been coaching aside, and you look at the results, and it's not always the results, because it's what is the legacy? What does the team then take? I mean, you think of a Ganguly, and I'm such a big fan, because for a long time, the Indian team was the nicest team in the world. They were great guys, had some great players, but they're almost apologetic if they got you out or they beat you. And Ganguly changed that, and you didn't really see the benefits of that desire and fire in the captain until years down the line. So it's difficult to even judge somebody in their tenure as a coach of the side, because what is it that you're growing? And I think that's always so important, because that always doesn't result automatically as an outcome on a cricket game. Is what is the legacy? What are you building within an organization? And I think Graham Smith had a similar setup with the South African captaincy. Yes, he was our most successful captain, but he built this thing called Protea Fire. And it was more than just the cricket team. It was more than about the support structure and also about the fan engagement. So I think it's such an important thing to understand, is that, yes, as a coach, you have an influence on the team. But for me, you want to almost be judged on what is the legacy that you've left And that might only come to the fore 2-3 years after you've been around. That's me sitting on the fence without criticizing Gambia quite well, though. But it's it's so difficult to judge, and there are so many good teams around. There's no weak opposition, and results are going to go for you, and they're going to go against. I mean, that is sport. You win some, you lose some. But as I said, I think it's what do you want to see? What is that legacy that is then left behind and gets shown in future generations of young players coming through the Indian ranks?
It's eminently diplomatic. Let me get you to ask a little bit about the South African team. They have been playing with a different energy ever since the World Test Championship final. What are the factors that you attribute towards their, changed energies, changed momentum? Is it Themba Bavuma, his leadership, or is it any other thing that you're seeing in the side at the moment?
Rica, I think it's a combination of a few things. We're the World Test that team, South Africa, these guys have been incredible. This is the first trophy that South Africa has won in 20 odd years at an ICC event. I know it's not a limited overs event, but that was one thing. So, and I'm sure the Australians were talking about choking the entire time. And it's, when you play Australia, they are very verbal and they're in your space and in your face. And they are reminding you of past ghosts and performances. So the fact that South Africa stayed calm under that points to Themba's leadership. The style that the South African team plays. I mean, if you look at them, that we don't have superstars in our lineup. On social media, in the papers, it's a team that quietly goes about their business. And they had asked some of the former players to send the team a message before that final. And I just said to the team, I just love the fact that no one actually writes. You just quietly go about doing the basics very well. Because I've always been a huge, endorser of doing the basics 100% of the time. Because the team that makes the least mistakes is generally the side that comes out on top. And doing the fancy, the sexy stuff, sure, it might look good on television, but it's not consistently going to get you the results. True. Ball in and ball out. So I think from a point of view, what does South Africa do well was one, they got the monkey off their back with regards to winning.
The Chokers tag is finally off?
Well, I think it'll still be there. It's something that doesn't just disappear with one Test Championship win. And every time they play in the opposition will definitely, cricket is a mind game. I mean, I know it's about batting and bowling and fielding skills, but it's very much a mind game. And the opposition will always remind South Africa because of the opportunities that we've had to get into finals, to win tournaments. But I think the team, I played in 4 World Cups. If you ask me, did we see ourselves as chokers? And honestly, we were never once. But I think Bavuma's leadership, the fact that the team is a unit as opposed to a bunch of stars kind of coming together, because you can have the best individual players in the world, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to perform as a team. And that's what I love from the South African side. And that was my message to them. Just keep doing that, just quietly doing your job. Because if you can do the basics well over 5 days, you are invariably going to be the team that takes the trophy. So that was amazing to see. And it does go back. It's not just, Shukri Conrad as well from a coaching point of view. Yes. It's all that sort of management that's quietly doing things behind the scenes. And it's not, pushing players forward, raising a player up, an individual up above the team. It's always been about the success of the team and what the units are doing. So yeah, I think it's a combination of all those factors, but a lot stems back to the leadership, Shukers and Themba as well. So amazing to see.
Lovely. It is always great to talk to you, Jonty, and we look forward to a much anticipated test series continue in Guwahati. Thank you very much.